Hey everybody, welcome to Trek Tuesday. I'm really excited and a little bit nervous about this episode because I'm starting to show off my Star Trek Starships collection from Eagle Moss. And the reason I'm nervous about it is because I really still haven't gotten down 100% exactly how I want to present these to you. So, this video is kind of my pilot episode. We'll see how it goes over, and we'll move on from there. I'll make some changes here or there, hopefully make some improvements to the videos. But today I'm just going to go over one starship, and that is going to be actually the second one I've got. So to kind of explain that and explain how this is going to work, my starship collection from Star Trek started in 2013. That's when these things were, for the most part, released. So back then, less than 3 years ago, I really didn't have a really good idea about how to display these models. I knew I wanted to take them obviously out of the box and display them, but I didn't really give a lot of thought to the wheres and the hows and all that. So as such, I didn't do a very good job of keeping them in good shape. So as we go through this collection, you'll see that some of the ships are damaged. These are kind of delicate models. They don't seem like they would be. They're die cast, but a lot of them have protrusions and very delicate pieces that are easily broken. And a lot of that comes from the wear I decided to display them, which if you've looked at some of my pictures on Instagram, you'll see that they were for a long time displayed over a set of stairs going down from my loft and my studio space here. So not a great idea, especially with cats around and that kind of thing. So some of these ships you're going to see have a little bit of damage to them, pieces broken off, things like that. I still want to talk about them because I think they're very cool, but they're also in a queue that I have for replacing them. Great thing about this series is not only is it a subscription, but also they're pretty easy to find individually. You can actually go to the Eagle Moss site and buy the ships on an individual basis. So the subscription is $20 every 2 weeks, and each ship you get is that 1995 ship. So you get 2 a month, and they come with a very cool magazine, which I'm going to go over as well. And if you're a subscriber, you also get some gifts. So we've got some special collectibles to go over as well, because I was a subscriber for about 18 months. So I got 36 issues of the Star Trek Starships. Now we're not going to be able to show them all because some are damaged beyond repair, which is unfortunate. But again, those are on the list for me to buy again, so I'll be doing that. I'll also be probably re-upping my subscription as I'm going through these and as I'm looking at them again and getting in-depth for YouTube. It's really put a charge in me to pick up this subscription because these ships are just amazing. They just look great, and I'm excited to present them to you. So today we're only going to do one ship, and that is the Enterprise Refit, which is right here. But again, some of them, as you'll see when we go along, some of them will be damaged, some of them will be on the stand, some of them we are going to look at without any kind of stand, and we'll talk about the whys as we go through. But without further ado, let's check out our first ship. Okay, here we are with issue number 2 from Star Trek, the official Starships Collection. This is the USS Enterprise NCC-1701. This is the refit. So this is the ship appearing in Star Trek the Motion Picture, Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, and Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. We're going to start with the magazine, so let's put the model away for a second and get into the magazine. So all the magazines have the same format, which is great. It really gives a consistent look at the collection because all the magazines are built the same way. So, as you can see, issue number 2, nice graphic of the ship on the front, USS Enterprise NCC-1701. And it also gives the year 2271. And that's because, a lot of these ships are very similar. So it helps to classify where in the timeline this ship originates. And it also gives a few facts up here. Constitution class, relaunched 2271 after the refit. Length 305 meters. Number of decks 21. So let's open her up. And the first thing we've got is a nice table of contents and also a little tip about how to assemble the ship in the stand. I did mine a little bit differently. This is actually one of the first models I got, and it's also one of the first models that I decided to glue the ship into the stand. And the reason I did that is because where I was displaying these ships early on in getting this collection was a very, let's say, hazardous place. So I didn't want them to get knocked over and that kind of thing. So I decided, well, let me use some model glue and see if I can glue them together. So there's advantages and disadvantages to that, and I'll talk about that when I get to the ship. But this is the stand assembly, and then some credits on this side. And then over here, very cool splash page where it talks about the ship, a nice frontal view of the ship, and then all of the particulars of the ship, the registry, the class, where it was constructed, when it was launched to when it was destroyed. And, obviously a lot of the ships aren't going to have that particular bummer information. Length, decks, crew, top speed, weaponry, and captains, which I think is an interesting addition to that. And then some side profile, rear shots, top-down shots of the ship itself as well. All right, getting right into it. Nice shot of the Enterprise there. When I go through these magazines, I'm going to go through. Obviously, I'm not going to read the magazine to you, but I'll talk about some of the highlights and some of the pictures and graphics that go along with it. So this graphic goes along with the USS Enterprise NCC-1701 underwent a major refit between 2270 and 2271 that left it looking like a brand new ship. So. Splash page, you've got a data feed which kind of gives some interesting facts about the particular ship. In this one, the color of the light given off by the deflector dish changed depending on how fast the Refit Enterprise was traveling. At warp speeds, it had an intense blue glow, while at impulse speeds, it had a golden glow. So that was just some little interesting facts about the page that you're on. All right, moving right along, it gives a lot of pictures of the different movies that the ship appears in. This magazine in particular goes has a lot of information about Star Trek the Motion Picture, but also includes pictures from Star Trek II, Star Trek 3, and etc. So again, pictures from the movies, data feed on. They do this a lot with a lot of the crew members and captains. Decker, in particular, in this one. Great shot of the dry dock, a whole article on the dock, and because it's a pretty iconic image, and when we get to the NX-01 from the Enterprise series, you'll see that there's a little tribute to this dry dock as well. This was an impressive scene when first seeing the Star Trek the Motion Picture. Again, we're talking about the late 70s, so this was a very impressive special effect for the time. And then this one gives a little factoid. An 8-foot-long model of the Refit Enterprise was built for the movie. It took 14 months to complete and cost $150,000, while the model of the dry dock was $200,000. At the time of its release in 1979, Star Trek the Motion Picture was said to have been the most expensive movie ever made, costing $45 million. The effects budget alone was around $10 million, and it showed in sequences like this one. So, again, for the time, very impressive. All right, in the middle of the magazine, this is actually where in the binder that you get if you're a subscriber, where you kind of bind the magazine into the binder. But the center part is starts into the deconstruction of the ship itself. In this case, gives you a nice top-down view. It points out different areas, the docking port, the saucer station, the main bridge. some different areas of the ship, shuttle bay, impulse engines, which is nice. Kind of a not a diagram, but a here's where this is, here's where that is, side of the ship as well. Very good looks graphically at the ship. And then there's a designing section. So the designing section of the magazine generally has a lot of concept art and what went into the decision making as far as modeling this ship. So we've got some concept art and different pages. You can see that. Some very nice renderings of their thoughts about how they were going to design this new Enterprise, because it was going to be for the movies. So it had been, I don't know, it had been 10 or so years since the series, so, you know, the update was super important because Star Trek is all about the ships, and the Enterprise in particular. More concept art, some cool background behind how the design of the ship came about, and then how filming the NCC-1701 refit. So a lot of the ship magazines have, okay, how did they film this? Did they use models? How much CG was incorporated? Obviously in 1979, no CG around, so there's a nice picture of the model with people around it. Shows you how big it is. And a great model about some history about filming. All right, the last page is generally some trivia and some data about the actual on-screen appearances of the ships. So this one, the first appearance, Star Trek Motion Picture. It was also in Star Trek 2, Star Trek 3, and its final appearance, Star Trek 3. Who designed it, and what the key appearances were. So kind of gives a little breakdown of the important movies, TV, whatever, that the ship actually appeared in. And then some trivia over here about you know, different appearances on TV and the movies. And then lastly, it gives a upcoming in the next issue. When you start your subscription, if you are a subscriber, you get the issues in order, starting with number 1. So I've got 1 through 36. So I think at some point what I might do is pick up the subscription again. They told me when I stopped my subscription, and this was well over a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago, that I could email them and pick up my subscription where I left off. So I'm hoping to be able to do that. So this is a little insight as to what's coming up. Next one we're going to look at is the Klingon Bird of Prey. That's issue number 3. And then the back of the magazine. Nice, simple little graphic of the starship. All right, so that's the magazine. Now the ship itself. Now, as I said, this ship I glued onto the stand. If you look at the bottom of the stand, it also gives the info. One thing about these stands is they are, like, have a felt bottom, so that when they're sitting somewhere, they don't move around very much, which is nice. So anyway, so I decided to glue this, and those of you that were paying attention to the magazine early on know that I put this in wrong. Generally with this model, the actual ship gets held, these little prongs hold onto the saucer section. So this should be supported by the saucer section. I put it on the pylons. I like it better this way. So that was kind of one advantage of go ahead and gluing it, because I could glue this together. I knew it was going to sit just fine, and I actually like it better on the pylons. The disadvantage to using some model glue and getting it on here, it's, first of all, it's a little harder to go over the fine details in this case, but I didn't know I was going to make videos on these. And number 2, if you do knock this over, it's much more likely to break if it doesn't, you know, if it's solid and glued onto the stand. So, and that's happened a couple of times. This one, however, is nice and intact. It looks pretty good. It's one of the earlier ones I've gotten. It's actually one of my favorites as well. I like the details. If you look, we're going to bring it up close. A lot of these little detail wording are actually decals. So you've got some decaling on there. I like how they have the paneling done there. Got some spot of colors. The nacelles look really good with that kind of spacey blue on there. And along the side and also along the front here. The Broussard collectors. It shows a real nice shot of the shuttle bay in the back as well. And then the deflector looks pretty good too. I like that blue deflector. It doesn't look exactly like it does on screen, but it looks pretty good. Again, I love these ships so much, and I'll keep saying that as we're going over these. But I like the magazine, and I dig the ships so much that I doubt that I'll be doing more than 1 or 2 per video, just because I don't want to rush through them. But you can see the bridge there up on the top, and just generally a really good looking model. So there she is, the NCC-1701 Refit. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this look at the Enterprise Refit. I'm looking forward to doing the next video. I've found that I get so in depth about the magazine and the model that doing 3 at a time, which was my original plan, it's going to make for some long videos. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe we'll do 2 at a time. And again, this is a work in progress. What works, what doesn't work, we'll kind of see. And that's where your comments are going to come in. What do you like about this series? What should I change? What would you like to see in future episodes that I'm not doing? I'd love to see those comments and feedback because that helps me a lot. I really am excited about doing this Trek Tuesday with these ships, and I want them to really put a charge in you as much as they do in me. So that's about it. As always, check out what we've got going on as far as social media, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Next Trek Tuesday, in a couple of weeks, we'll either have another BoxyChan box, or I'm going to go over some Star Trek pops. I don't know yet. We might even do some ships again to try to catch up. So we'll kind of see how it goes. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.